Welcome to News from the Nations. We're so happy to have you here. My name is Heather, and I'm the marketing manager here at Children of the Nations. So if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, welcome. We're so happy to have you. News from the Nations is a weekly broadcast where we share updates, news, and inspiring stories. Children of the Nations is an organization where we help raise children who transform nations in the 5 countries where we serve. We help almost 5,000 children every day in our programs, and we impact about 23,000 people every year through our medical clinics, summer camps, and Jesus Film. So if you are watching live right now, I want you to take this opportunity to like us on Facebook, follow us on our Instagram, or our YouTube, or our LinkedIn. We are constantly posting content all week long and want you to be able to keep up with us. Now we are continuing our new series today where we are taking a deep dive into each of our 5 countries. And if you're a regular here, welcome back. If this is your first time watching, welcome. We're so happy to have you. In our chat room right now, we have our chat hosts Bryce and Fraser there to say hi with you, connect with you on stories. And Bryce and Fraser, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I'm going to give you a question to answer for everyone. And I want to know, what is your favorite thing about working for Children of the Nations? And if you're familiar with Children of the Nations, write your favorite thing about Children of the Nations as well. So before we get started, one last thing. I want to invite you to share this video on your Facebook with your friends and family so they can see all the wonderful stories we have to share with you today. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode of News from the Nations. Welcome to News from the Nations. This is a live weekly broadcast where we are sharing the impact being made in the 5 countries where we serve. Now, because of the virus, people can't travel. And because you can't travel, we are bringing the country to you. Today, we are continuing our series, taking you deep into our countries and programs one by one. We're so happy to have you here with us. Again, my name is Heather. Last week, we took you to Malawi, the warm heart of Africa. And this week, we are taking you to the pearl of Africa, Uganda. Now, in the chat room, I want to know if you have ever been to Uganda or anywhere in Africa. Now, Uganda, it boasts some of the best scenery in Africa. It's composed of lakes and rivers and mountains. It's beautiful. We serve in Uganda for a multitude of reasons. In recent history, the people of Uganda have suffered greatly in the past from war and dictatorship, and the orphans and widows are among the hardest hit from the country's turmoil, and they've been left to fend for themselves, usually on the streets. Another reason is that healthcare is a great concern for families in Uganda, and access to medical facilities is limited and costly. And without access to even the most basic necessities or services, conditions like malnutrition are rampant. And finally, the children there are in desperate need of improved educational opportunities in order to help them escape the cycle of poverty and open up a brighter future. I want to begin today by flying you over our Children of the Nations ministry site in Uganda. Take a look. About 80% of all Ugandans work in agriculture. So here you are going to see some children working on a family farm heaping potatoes. Check it out. If you're just joining us, welcome. We are taking a deep dive into one of our countries, Uganda. We're so happy to have you here with us. Now, today in rural Uganda, a typical Ugandan lives in villages made up of small houses, often less than a couple hundred square feet, made from mud with a thatched grass or iron roof. So I want to introduce you to Beatrice, who is going to take you inside the Children of the Nations Uganda Children's Home and show us where she lives. Take a look.
Hello, my name is Amang Beatrice. I stay in Peace House. Our caregiver is called Mary Melvin. She's so lovely and peaceful. In our house, we are 8 in number. My favorite meal is fish and rice. This is our dining. We love eating together as a family. I enjoy playing Ludo and watching with my friends.
Lillian.
I study in Children of the Nations Nursery and Primary School. While at home, this is where we watch and do our revision from. It is called Gazebo. Thanks.
Thank you, Beatrice, for showing us what a day in your life looks like in Uganda. Now, next we have an amazing video to show you a rap song and dance created by the smart and creative students from our children's home. Understanding their culture and being able to express themselves creatively through arts and dance is so important, and you're really going to enjoy this clip.
This is COTN Uganda, raising children who transform nations.
This is COTN. Look how we're living now. Look how we're blessed now. Everything now we generous. This is COTN. Praise and worship we're singing now. God put his hand on the head of his children, transforming the nation now. This is COTN. Look how we're living now. Look how we're blessed now. Everything now we generous. This is COTN. Praise and worship we're singing now. God put his hand on the head of his children, transforming the nation now. Through quality and holistic education, we do this through cooperation. Our life is not in question. Through our sponsors, we are not losers, we shine like flowers. We are not low, we're moving higher, we're hot like fire. Your love is near, speedy like tears. We have no fear, we have no tears. We shot like leaders in our pictures. We have a future together with the teachers, we stand like pillars. Life we living, the care we're having, the way we're studying is looking so generous. Happiness forever, from January to December. Check on your calendar, we shall not surrender. The love is so tender, we shall still remember. We shall stand like commanders and fight like defenders. Children of the nation. This is COTN. Look how we're living now. Look how we're blessed now. Everything now we generous. This is COTN. Praise and worship we're singing now. God put his hand on the head of his children, transforming the nation now. This is COTN. Look how we're living now. Look how we're blessed now. Everything now we generous. This is COTN. Praise and worship we're singing now. God put his hand on the head of his children, transforming the nation now. Through quality and holistic education, we do this through cooperation. Our life is not in question.
This is COTN. God loving our nation now. It's why we are singing now. Education for Uganda now. COTN's founders, sponsors, world staff. Blessings upon the heart of raising and transforming a nation now. For God's plans, it's why we are studying today.
Thank you, Lord, for supporting our nation now.
Finally, I am bringing back a familiar face if you have been watching News from the Nations from the beginning. We have our board member, Brandon Beard, here to share an inspiring story from one of his trips to Uganda.
I'm so honored to be on News from the Nations today and just have a few minutes to tell you one of my favorite stories from Children of the Nations in Uganda. It's a place that I love so much. It's a place I've visited many times, but this is a story that I'll never forget. One year, our church, I was working at a church in California called Real Life Church, and we packaged a sea container full of supplies for Uganda. It had thousands of items in it. It took us weeks and weeks to fill this and fill the sea container. And while we filled the sea container, we painted the whole outside of it. And we had the children in our church put paint on their hands, and they put their handprints all over the sea container. So there was kids' handprints everywhere, thousands of handprints. It was really, really neat. And we prayed for what was being sent, and we were so excited to see the kids in Uganda receive it. Now, I was traveling months later after we'd packaged that sea container and it had been sent off to Uganda. And I was actually in Uganda when the sea container arrived, just by happenstance. It was so exciting. And so when the sea container arrived, obviously we had a big party. The truck pulled in and they craned this container off and they dropped it on the cement that had been built to hold this container. And we were going wild. I mean, it was just a huge party. And I've got all the kids gathered around, and I'm getting them all fired up, and we're clapping and celebrating and doing what we do in Uganda. And I said, kids, how many of you are ready to open the sea container? Are you guys ready? Let's open the sea container. And one of the kids in the middle of the room, they were pretty quiet, and one of the kids in the middle of the room raised their hand, and I called on them, and they stood up. And they said, Pastor Brandon, shouldn't we pray and thank God for the people who sent the sea container before we open it? I said, of course. I mean, that's what I was thinking. I was just blown away and pretty humbled by this child's heart. They were so grateful, and they thought it was appropriate to pray and thank God. And so I said, yeah, do you like to pray? And they said, I think we should all pray. And the kids all stood up. And they walked over to the sea container, hundreds of kids, and they surrounded the container, and they took turns putting their hands on the container and praying for each one of those handprints that had been painted and put on the container. And they just prayed and prayed. They prayed for 1 hour. I got to tell you, that blew my mind. And it showed me the heart of these children. When Children of the Nations talks about holistic care and providing holistic care and providing care for the whole child, emotional, spiritual, health and education and all that, I got to see what happens in the heart of a child. They become grateful. They become full of joy, and their hearts are so in the right place. When you partner with Children of the Nations, when you sponsor, when you give, when you go and visit, you'll experience that. And you'll be part of bringing that kind of heart change to the life of a child. That's my Uganda story, and I'm so excited that you got to hear it today.
That is just an amazing story. Thank you for joining us again to share that, Brandon. Now, I hope you are all feeling uplifted and inspired this morning after hearing and seeing what life looks like inside the children's home in Uganda. I want to encourage you to sponsor a child from our children's home in Uganda today. Sponsorship changes the game. It sets their life on a whole new trajectory, their whole life, a new path. The help that sponsorship provides is based on the needs of each specific country and village, but among many things that sponsorship ensures all of our children have are clean water, nutritious food, full-time Christian education, full-time medical care, plus so much more. And this helps break the cycle of poverty. It helps them rise up to be new leaders in their countries. So take a look at the link in the chat room right now and consider sponsoring a child from our Uganda Children's Home today. Thank you so much for sharing this time here with us at News from the Nations. Before you sign off, we have a video to show you of two of our students in Uganda sharing what their favorite subject in school is, who their favorite teacher is, and what they want to be one day. You don't want to miss it. Thank you for joining us as we looked at life in Uganda today. I'm Heather, and we'll see you next week on News from the Nations. Bye.
Hi, my name is Shane Daniel. I am in grade 1, Form 1. I'm one of the COTN full care children in COTN Uganda. I study in COTN Manionas High School. I want to become an engineer in future.
Hello everyone, my name is Patricia Kule. I am in grade 7. I'm one of the full care children in Children of the Nations Uganda. I study in COTN Nursery and Primary School. I want to become an accountant in future. I like going to school because it's where I get knowledge and skills. Thanks, I love you. Bye.